Hello my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So let's start over in China. And this is a terrifying moment when an entire street collapses after buckling and crumbling in China. And this is in Sichuan province, southwest China. And you guys, I'll let you play this video. It's just like, it's just scary. Scary to think about. And this is not an earthquake, this is flooding again. And we've seen tremendous damage being done by flooding. It reminds me of the dream I had a while ago where I was looking at these gigantic roads in like major city that was just devastated, and it looked like there had to be like a 9.0 earthquake to cause this type of damage. But you know what, now I'm starting to think that, you know, you could probably get all this damage just with flooding. And we're seeing that. This is a whole highway that just collapses near an entrance to an underground car park. And it just goes boom, just straight down. Scary, very, very scary. So a man who witnessed the road collapse said he saw 20 to 30 centimeter cracks just start to open up in the concrete after the heavy rain. And as the cracks got wider, he said he saw two elderly people walking along the road and shouted at them to run. 5 minutes later, the whole section fell. A total of 50 residents were evacuated, allowed to return after authorities had inspected the area for safety hazards. And you know, there are sources that have said that this, I have so many sources, you know, I have so many people contacting me every day with quote-unquote inside sources. They know what's going on, and you know, obviously you have to kind of discern it for yourself, and you know, as I've said before, don't necessarily believe everything I say, don't believe everything I read, and share with you guys. You know, discern it for yourself, go ahead and check into it. But I've had sources that say that it's not really the flooding. What it is those DEWs, those direct energy weapons that both sides, China as well as US, is using on each other, and that they're being covered up by basically supposedly happening during these intense rains, but really even the intense rains are being produced and amplified by both countries. And then some people would think, well, okay, well, it might look like it's both countries doing it, but in fact it's just really the shadow government that's behind all the countries that is doing it. Either way, what we're seeing is not normal. I don't care, you know, how many times people will say, ah, sure, that happens. You know, not every single day. When have we ever experienced anything like this? And, you know, we've had the internet for, you know, many years now. So it's not just that we got the internet and we could see all of a sudden what's going on around the world. This is totally different. Something is very wrong here. Something is going on that we haven't seen the likes of before. This year is just a different year. Things have changed. And this is a little bit more info on that. 16 killed, 92,000 evacuated after the floods hit China, Guangxi, and 10 people missing at the moment. Many have been forced to evacuate their homes, almost 100,000. And intense heavy storms. A number of multi-story buildings actually collapsed. You have just tremendous damage going on, and it's just scary, the level of intensity that we're seeing in all these storms all over the place. As there are many of the Evolutionary Energy Arts family here in the greater Tampa area, and you know, tremendous storms going through last night as well. And something seems different about these storms. Is it just the fact that the magnetosphere has declined 15 to 25%? Perhaps. Is there some human forces at work with it too, amplifying the effects? Perhaps. But there's definitely something different about it. So we have 3 major rivers above danger mark, 17 killed in floods and landslides across Nepal. And you know, it doesn't matter what continent you look on, you're finding these things everywhere. We saw them in Bulgaria, we saw them in France, we've seen them in Germany, we've seen them in Italy, Romania. It just goes on and on over in Europe at the moment. Of course, India, Pakistan, they've been so hard hit. This is Nepal to the north of India. We've had it in the United States, all across the Midwest, in the South, everywhere. You name it, and we've seen it. And again, I'll let you click on this, and you'll see this bus just get swept totally away, taken down what appears to be a river, but was a street. It's just incredible what we're seeing with the storms and the amount of rain that's coming down. And so, it just makes me think, always going back to things being biblical. And really, now, when it hit me a long time ago when I was reading the Bible too, that it would be so easy for any civilization with advanced technology to basically do anything that we see in the Bible as far as being attributed to acts of God. Our shadow government could do any of those things right now, any of them, you name it. And there have been more advanced cultures on this planet, very, very advanced technologically, and there could be leftovers of that still around, and perhaps that's even where some of these groups that are running the planet come from, because they're handing down this tradition, of the mysteries, which really, as we see, they're all the same. They all point to the same thing, and it's that consciousness creates reality, and intention is very, very strong, very powerful, and harnessing the intention of a group is even more powerful yet. And as I've said to you guys before, I've mentioned some series that I think are super insightful. And I think they're message series, especially coming through Netflix right now. There have been so many incredible series coming through Netflix that's really talking about the way things really are. And so many things are being leaked to us. And it doesn't take much to really put the pieces together and see how things are being manipulated and controlled. So, when you see like the series Sense8, it's just really such an interesting and cool series about the type of world we're going to live in as the ascension process goes on, when you have people that are so much more telepathic and connected to each other that they could really see what each other's seeing in real time, just clear as day. And the CIA and the KGB, they have done experiments for at least close to 70 years on basically testing the limits of human abilities. And I've talked about that declassified study before that shows that as cosmic rays increase, our DNA is going to mutate, and we're going to get much, much more psychic, and all of our abilities are going to increase, and they are increasing, because things that I know that I've experienced in the past, I'm hearing from you guys, and you're telling me what you're experiencing, and I know you guys are going through things that I've experienced, and I know there are stages in the unfolding of your own evolutionary process energetically, and it's just something that's happening all across the planet, and it's part of the bigger picture. San Francisco's sky covered by eerie orange haze as raging wildfires spread across northern California, and that does look pretty ominous and eerie, as you can see. And so the dusting of ash fell as far away as San Francisco, where tourists are snapping pictures of the Golden Gate Bridge enveloped in an orange shroud of fog and smoke. Very, very, there's all these just crazy things going on in the world right now, all these wild signs. We have Typhoon Prapiroon moving between Korea and Japan, and also dumping heavy rain. And in the past it was only things like typhoons and hurricanes that brought the type of rains that now we're seeing just regular old storms bringing in incredible short amounts of time. And thankfully so far everything has been quiet. in the Atlantic, besides that one early tropical storm, and the Pacific has had more activity for sure, but overall it has not been a bad year so far. Of course, it's very, very early in the season, and there are some signs that things might start to be changing shortly, and we'll keep an eye on that as well. And hopefully this will not bring any serious damage to either place, Japan or Korea. Abnormal square clouds are forming around the world, and nobody can explain why. It's unusual, incredible, strange, and totally wrong. Clouds should not look like a square, but such clouds like that have begun appearing all across the planet, and they're increasing. And yeah, again, we're seeing signs. So if they have angles like this, they're not natural. They're not natural. So, you know, it's either humans doing it, or it's ETs or interdimensionals doing it. You know, there's some sort of consciousness doing this. And, you know, is it a byproduct of HARP, CERN, or perhaps some other things that we don't even know and haven't been made aware of yet? Either way, it's not natural, and it's very, very interesting to see. I mean, you just don't see that in nature. And as the article is saying, is this a result of HARP? Another proof of climate control. Oh yeah, I mean, there's climate control everywhere. Look at this cloud in Tucson. That's almost like somebody blurting out and trying to cover something on Google Earth, you know, with a paste and cut. And it makes you wonder about our entire reality. How real is it? Because there are some scientists that say, you know, reality is not in the 3D realm at all, and what we have is just basically a holographic universe here, and so nothing is really real here at all. It's all really an illusion, and ultimately that's what Buddha said too, and that's what his great understanding was. What he came to was everything is an illusion. It's just all Maya, which means illusion. And so perhaps, you know, are these messages from higher beings telling us, hey, what you think is real is not real at all? Or is this, you know, something a little bit more diabolical being produced by HARP or CERN or some other technology? Hard to know, but the only thing that we could definitely say for sure is that it definitely does not look natural. And, you know, for sure, there's no doubt there's climate control. Anybody that says there's no climate control going on, there's no you know, engineering and manufacturing of the weather, that chemtrails don't exist and that's just a product of your mind, I wouldn't trust anything they say. Nothing. Ominous shelf cloud creeps towards the shores of Michigan Resort on Lake Superior. We took a peek at this yesterday, and we got some more photos and more detail coming in. And I tell you, this reminds me of the movie The Mist. And if you guys didn't see that movie, it was very, very creepy and unfortunately very depressing in the end. Now you could click on these videos and watch the videos. The other thing that caught my attention here is they say, so we just experienced the craziest thing ever. It was sweltering 85 and muggy up here, and the tide pulled out by 30 feet. In the distance, it looked like a huge wave heading towards us, so we decided to watch it come in. You know, in the future, I would hope people would get to higher ground first if you think a wave is coming, and thankfully it was just the cloud. And so as they noticed it was the cloud, they got the videotape of it coming in, and again, I'll let you guys go ahead and play that. Super, super creepy, super intense. They didn't get any rain, but the wind was so strong when it hit the shore you could hardly breathe. And it lasted about 10 minutes, but I'm happy to report now it's 65 degrees, so they dropped 20 degrees with this system that came in. So yeah, definitely go check out those videos. That was really wild, and just another absolute sign of what we have going on here and just how unusual it is. And talk about unusual strength of storms. We have a 5-ton tractor that's missing in South Dakota following a tornado. So the tornado picked up the tractor and they still haven't found it. So, you know, they'll find it eventually, hopefully. It'd be interesting to see how far it was thrown. 10,000 pounds, that's a lot of weight. So that shows you the power behind these storms. The winds were estimated to be 136 miles per hour. While much of the damage was consistent with an EF1 or EF2, the most significant damage was more consistent with an EF3. And they're going to categorize it in the next few days. That was that storm that spawned at least 5 tornadoes. And that was in South Dakota and Montana. A really impressive storm as well. So we've talked about this going back a while ago, but the bid to split California into 3 states is gaining traction. Could it really happen? So you'd have California just along the coast, kind of in the central. Then you'd have Northern California and Southern California. And you'd have 3 separate states, so it'd be more manageable. And also just the fact that when you look at it, as with so many other areas, people vote differently and want different things depending on where they live. So, you know, if you're in the urban zone between LA and San Fran, you're going to be, you know, perhaps wanting some different things to happen than you would if you were in Northern California, you know, say living around Shasta, or if you were in Southern California over by the desert. You know, it would perhaps make more sense to split up something like that, because we know California is a mess, and you know, so many people have left it because of the taxes, you know, the extreme cost to live there, and just everything that comes with it. So we'll see what happens with that. China, they're developing a laser gun that the soldiers would carry as a normal weapon, and also it would be carried by the police. And this is so ominous. A Chinese firm has developed a laser gun designed for police use that can set fire to protesters' hair or banners from a range of almost 1 kilometer. That's pretty crazy stuff and pretty scary stuff. You wouldn't even actually see it coming, you know, 0.6 of a mile away. So the general manager of the ZKZM fiber laser company, who asked to remain anonymous, said the weapon would immediately produce a strong pain response in the target, but stressed it was designed to be non-lethal. The weapon is designed to do such things as setting fire to illegal banners at a protest or setting fire to the hairs or clothing of a protester. It's not designed explicitly for killing like a gun that uses bullets and cannot cause the instant carbonization of human skin and tissues. The 15mm caliber weapon weighs 3 kilometers, about 6.6 pounds, has a range of 2,600 feet, and can pass through glass and other transparent obstacles. Can be mounted on cars, boats, and planes. So the firm is seeking a partner that has a weapons production license or a partner in the security or defense industry to start large-scale production, mainly expected to be for Chinese police use. He said it would have to be upgraded to a laser cannon with increased power to become lethal, and confirmed his firm was working on just that right now. But he noted that there was an international agreement not to develop killer lasers, and said that any such weapons would be inhumane. The pain would be unimaginable. Some experts were skeptical of the unveiling, saying laser weaponry was still a matter of science fiction. I doubt that. I'm sure that they have that tech now. There's no doubt about it. A friend of mine 25 years ago told me about tests that he saw when he was in the military out in Arizona and New Mexico, where they were testing lasers and just blasting through the sides of mountains like nothing. This was like 25 years ago, and I totally believe him. He was career military. Venezuela, further protests as the country begins running out of water now, and this is really just a geopolitical nightmare. And it's something for all of us to be sending our prayers and best wishes to these people, because really they're being used as pawns in a power struggle. Really, it's all political in origin. and it's just a real atrocity, and it's horrible. And now they're running out of fresh water. It's just a horrible thing, and you're seeing people leaving the country, obviously, in droves, heading into Brazil, heading into Colombia, just getting out of the area totally. And you know, it's something to be aware of. And just for those people that just don't believe in chemtrail spraying, I just saw this picture and I was like, yep, that's a really good example, you know, of chemtrail spraying, especially with their grids, their checker patterns. It's all kind of like a big middle finger in the sky in so many ways. So a new threat emerges for North Carolina's famous wild horses, prompting warnings to terrorists, and it's because they're feeding them fast food and junk food, and people are thinking it's you know, a laugh or something along those lines, and I can't understand people that have that type of mentality at all. So this is the Corolla wild horses, and I've been there and seen them firsthand, and they're beautiful. And this is on the Outer Banks, at the northern end of the Outer Banks. I took a trip once from the very top all the way down to the end, and it's some of the most beautiful scenery in the country. Absolutely love the Outer Banks. They're wonderful, and they're also down in South Carolina somewhat as well, and a couple of small islands. You can't get really usually too close to them. You know, they'll stay around you, but when you really get close to try to go touch one or something, they'll usually go away. But if you're throwing them food, you know, they're asking that you don't do that. Especially don't feed them Big Macs and don't feed them junk food. So it's affecting their health. And yeah, it's an amazing thing to see, because we just don't have that many wild horses left in the world. And this is something that is such a useful tool, and I've done videos on this before, though it's been a while. 5 science-backed benefits from intermittent fasting, and I kind of do this naturally a lot of the time. Honestly, it has so much benefit for you when you eat in a certain window of time. It really can not only speed up fat loss, but also getting rid of toxins and, you know, tissues that are not tissues you want to keep in your body. So now you can do intermittent fasting with any sort of program, whether you're vegan, vegetarian, whether you're paleo, whether you're keto, low carb, Atkins, whatever you're doing, you could intermittent fast with it. And so, as this article is saying, many people choose to adopt a 12 to 16 hour overnight fast, in which you finish eating by about 8 p.m. and hold off on as far as your first meal goes until about 12 p.m., lunch, noon. So, I mean, typically with me, when I'm doing this, my window it usually starts at about 1 p.m. is the first time I'd eat something, and the last time I'd eat something might be like around 6 or 7. And sometimes I would cram it down to basically a 4-hour window, just eating between 2 and 6. Basically having two meals in that time frame, and then the rest of the time you're basically fasting. And so when you fast, what it does is your body first breaks down any sort of proteins that are sick or diseased, so any sort of cancers. Anything that's cancerous, anything that is not optimal, gets broken down first by your body. It's just a natural process. It also just gives your body time to clean things out, and it gives your system a rest. So there's so many benefits to it. As it says, number one, you're going to burn fat, and that's just a fact. So this study published in the journal Cell Research found that following intermittent fasting for up to 16 weeks helps prevent obesity, and preliminary benefits were apparent after just 6 weeks. The researchers found that intermittent fasting kickstarts the metabolism and helps burn more fat by generating body heat. Intermittent fasting without a reduction in caloric intake can be a preventative and therapeutic approach against obesity and metabolic disorders. So, it's not the fact that you're eating less, because it's just, even if you eat the same amount of calories, you will burn more fat. You will live longer. And realize that so much of what goes on in our body is oxidative stress. And, basically, it's just like anything. The more that you put through the system, the faster it wears out. So if you're taking in 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day, you're just basically burning your wick, your candle wick, at a much faster pace than somebody that's taken in 16 or 1,800 calories. And so you're going to live longer. It's just that simple. Nothing says healthy lifestyle choice like longevity. A Harvard study shows that intermittent fasting's food-free period manipulates the energy-producing mitochondria of your cells and increases your lifespan. As you age, your body is in a natural decline that affects your cells, but the study showed that the lower levels of energy produced during fasting time caused the mitochondria to shift and maintain their functions longer than normal to produce healthy aging and a longer lifespan. And I was talking to a friend yesterday who's very intuitive, and as it wasn't anything I hadn't heard before, but she also understands the way things work. And as she was saying, in reality, we really don't even need to eat, which sounds crazy to most, but if you know how to draw energy into yourself, you could get to the point where you don't. And there's yogis that have been monitored and haven't eaten for 40 days in front of scientists, and some haven't even drank for 2 weeks at a time, totally monitored by scientists, by doctors, and they should be dead with the water intake, but they're not. And so things are not the way that we've been brought up to believe they are at all. And I'm not saying that you could just go and do that without a lot of training, unless you're an extremely gifted individual. And so I wouldn't recommend it. But it's something to think about. What is potential? What's the potential? What is human potential? So it keeps your brain healthy. One of the most agreed upon benefits of intermittent fasting is the fact that it promotes healthy brain function and wards off neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. According to research by Mark Mattson, a professor of neuroscience at Johns Hopkins, basically the act of foregoing food is a challenge to your brain that causes it to take preventive measures against diseases. So how exactly does this work? The fasting period gives your body more time to deplete your body's glycogen stores, that's blood sugar, and causes you to burn fat instead of sugar. Hello, weight loss. This fat burning process produces ketones, ketogenic diet, ketosis, ketones, which boosts your energy and banishes brain fog. Mattson suggests packing the day's meals into a short 8-hour period so that your body has time to efficiently deplete glycogen stores and enter ketosis. Are you intrigued? So, yeah, and if you did put intermittent fasting with a ketogenic diet, there's nothing more powerful for losing fat. It really is. It just pours off of you so fast. It reduces inflammation, and so much of all the diseases we have are related to inflammation. We experience sporadic inflammation on a daily basis, from stubbing a toe to coming in contact with allergy-triggering dust mites. But suffering from chronic long-term inflammation leads to weight gain and unwanted belly fat. That's where intermittent fasting comes in. A study from obesity shows that fasting produces an anti-inflammatory effect on the neuroimmune system, and that a high-fat diet would otherwise prevent. To further fight against inflammation, incorporate these 30 best anti-inflammatory foods into your diet, and there's a link there. And it can reverse diabetes. Over 29 million people in America have diabetes, and 1 in 4 doesn't even know it. Diabetes can be managed via diet, exercise, and medication. According to University of Southern California researchers, intermittent fasting may also be able to stop the disease in its tracks. The study notes that a fasting-like diet triggers the production of new pancreatic cells to replace dysfunctional ones, and that can help control blood sugar and reverse insulin resistance and depletion. And again, if you are drinking regular soda, you are crazy. Things like that. White bread, just plain old white bread, white flour pastas. These things are all so unhealthy for us, just extremely unhealthy. And it's really, in the old days, like diabetes was just like, it was basically a disease of the rich only, because they were the only ones that could afford to eat in that way and manner. And when you think about the peasants, the peasants, they had a lot of periods with fasting. They had long periods where perhaps they didn't eat that much at all. And so our society that we're in now is one of kind of excess when you get down to it. And so putting this technique into your life can have tremendous benefits, tremendous. And you will feel better. You really, really will. And you won't be feeding that consistent, constant need to put something in your mouth. And you'll definitely think clearer, feel sharper, and you'll start burning the body's fat stores. And again, it could be as little as a 12-hour window, although you're going to get a much better effect if you don't eat for 16 hours. So if you did something like, ate at 10 a.m., stopped eating at 6 p.m., and that's it. That would be fine. Or ate at 8 a.m. and then stopped eating at 4 p.m. Or you could start at 2 p.m. and at 10 p.m. It all depends on what is your schedule like, what's going to be the most manageable for you to do. And this is something that could really benefit everybody. And so I just want to touch again on, you guys, a lot of people have been checking out evolutionaryenergyarts.com, some of the essential supplies that we have listed, and these are all just really healthy things, and a lot of emergency things too that should be on hand, just in case, because we're getting close to, well, for down here, we're getting close to really being in the thick of the hurricane season, and there's a lot of things that will help if you do lose power. A lot of essential supplies, a lot of nutritional items that you guys really should have, and we're going to be adding a lot more to this. It's a lot of work that's going to go into this as well, and these are things that everybody really needs to think about in these times, because we could see so clearly what's going on in this world, and that is tremendous change. But what's also happening is we are changing in consciousness, and we are evolving. And that's a beautiful thing. And the other thing that's happening too is this family's growing together and getting much, much, much stronger. And so thank you guys all that have reached out to me. I still haven't gotten back to everybody on requests for volunteering, to be help to lead the Evolutionary Energy Arts family in various areas of the country. And we'll be putting together a list and contact info. Definitely start to get together. And tonight at 10 p.m. I will be live again on Freedom Slips Revolutionary Radio, so join me there as well. I look forward to seeing you guys live tonight at 10 p.m. As always, my friends, may you be blessed with abundance, peace, health, happiness. May you all grow stronger together, and God bless and namaste, my friends. Remember to share, thumbs up to support the channel, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell. Make sure you get all the updates. Namaste, my friends. God bless.